This is a recording of You Gentiles by Maurice. This book is in the public domain. Recording by Grips. Chapter 6. Discipline. One of the best illustrations wherewith to contrast your adaptability to discipline and our lack of it is to be found in the difference between your behavior in church and our behavior in our own unmodernized synagogue, the Orthodox synagogue. In church, all is order and decorum, rhythm and regime. In the synagogue, all is chaos. In the church, leaders and responses are carefully prepared, carefully followed and observed. It is clean and neat, charming and exact. You behave well. You do as you are told, in Mass. You create esprit du corps in the church. There is a suggestive, hypnotizing decency in the trained correctness of your service. In the synagogue, all is disorder. We talk during service, we answer out of turn, and when we answer in Mass, one begins earlier, another ends later. It is Babel itself. People walk in and out, some take longer than others to get through a certain prayer, and the ones who read more rapidly chat in the interval. Part of the congregation is standing, part is sitting. Some wear prayer shawls, others do not, and the prayer shawls are not all alike. Sometimes there is much babbling that the voice of the cantor or leader cannot be heard. One of you at our services would be amazed. Our own young generation, which has picked up your ways, is disgusted. And the last couple of generations has seen reform synagogues conducted on your models. Taking this illustration, as one fairly may, of model discipline and lack of it, we may say, as is often said, quote, "You Gentiles are disciplined, we Jews are not," unquote. And it is not in church and synagogue alone that we find this contrast. It persists, equally clear-cut, in all branches of organized life. Compare any Gentile institution with an uncorrupted corresponding institution in Jewish life, and you will observe it. At your secular public assemblies, the same decency and unified restraint. At ours, the same scrambling regularity. Jewish meetings never begin on time, never end on time. In your clubs and societies, order and harmony. In ours, noise, disorder, and wastage. Your programs are observed with fair strictness. Our programs are merely points that depart. In your homes, calm and even systemization. In ours, boisterous affection, formlessness. And despite much effort, we cannot introduce your rhythmic exercise of discipline into our life and retain our individuality. We can imitate you excellently, produce a substitute as good as the original, but the institution then no longer has Jewish spirit. It is a Gentile institution artificially maintained by Jews, like our reform. Temples, and in these the Jew gradually learns to present a Gentile exterior. But wherever we are unrestrainedly Jewish, we shock you by our uncouthness. We lack social grace, the disciplined and distinguished social grace of high society, as well as the mean and spiritless punctiliousness of your middle classes. In the colleges, in the street, in the surface cars, in the clubs, in the army, we betray ourselves. Indeed, your very breaches of discipline differ from ours by a certain conscious rebelliousness, which is partly homage. Our breaches of discipline are offhand, unconscious, insolent. And carrying this still further, we Jews, the most clannish of peoples, are helplessly disorganized. We have never achieved comparative unity, not even in a single territory, much less throughout the world. All our organizations are small, but never too small to be unwieldy because of dissension and, worse than dissension, because of unamenability to regular discipline. To those who have known the comparative evenness of your organizations, political, religious, social, commercial, we are an unsightly people, and every effort to impose this sense of form on us only accentuates our formlessness. This distinction between us again points to the root difference between us, your triviality, and our seriousness. The fact is, of course, that in true discipline, in effectiveness, we are by no means your inferiors. No one would dream of asserting that our religion is no more effective than yours in compelling obedience or in perpetuating itself. The mere fact that we have persisted for 80 generations in maintaining a racial and spiritual identity in the face of so much persecution bespeaks essential discipline of amazing rigor and power. Disorganized as we are, we have outlived the most ably organized nations. We have failed to imitate the Roman legion or the Order of Jesus. We have survived the first and shall no doubt outlive the second. We have not your skill, your German or English or American skill in wheeling perfectly vast masses of perfectly subordinate men. Yet I have no doubt that when Germany and England and America will long have lost their present identity or name or purpose, we shall still be strong in ours. For true discipline should always be seen in relation to a purpose. Your discipline is goose step discipline. It is the hypnotic discipline of imposing rhythms, possible only in the absence of the individual discipline. There are hypnotic charm in your discipline, but it is not effective. As soon as the organization crumbles, the individuals are lost. We have never been the victims of organization. Your organization discipline, moreover, is a necessary part of your sport life. Games cannot be conducted without discipline. Discipline is the essence of a game. When two perfectly disciplined beings are opposed, the game is at its best. And the same feeling runs through all your manifestations of life. The game of nationalism, the game of society, the game of commercial success. The most startling and compelling moments of your Gentile genius are not individual productions, but the productions of mass. Most of the wonders of the ancient world were wonders springing out of great organized rhythmic effort, and your chief wonders today, those which dominate your general life, are like these. Great buildings, great countries, great ships, great wars, the pyramids, the Olympic, the Colossus of Rhodes, the Hanging Gardens, the Eiffel Tower, and the Woolworth Building, the Red Cross, the Catholic Church, Babylon, New York, the Daily Mail. These are the distinctive triumphs of your civilizations, the final appeal. And individual ingenuity is subordinated to the production of your mass effects, your discipline monsters. What single individuals can alone effect plays a very minor role in your way of life. Mass and rhythm and teamwork, the game, this is your ideal. It is not ours, and we are impressed only superficially and transiently by these productions. The individual is our climax, as the mass is yours. 100,000 men labored for 20 years to build the Great Pyramid. One man wrote the book of Isaiah. You will answer, quote, one man also wrote Hamlet and the Critique of Pure Reason and the Republic, unquote. But I ask, are Plato and Shakespeare and Kant in your life what the Bible, the Talmud, the rabbis are in ours? To our very masses, the Jewish masses, the wonders of the world are Moses, Elijah, the Rambam, the Vilna, Gaon, the Dubna Magi, the Chassid, the neighboring village. These actually dominate our life as governments, mass radio exploits, armies, and woolworths dominate yours. We are the people of the book, but we are the people of the book before 1,000,000 copies could be printed in a single day. This intractability of ours to your disciplines is one of our chief and most unpleasant characteristics. It is best noticeable in our new arrivals in Western countries, those who, in Eastern ghettos, have lived a more nearly Jewish life. It is much less noticeable in our modernized types, though there is still noticeable, for despite our clever imitativeness, We do retain our natural character and cannot hide it consistently, but betray ourselves at intervals. In the colleges, in the army, in business associations, we irritate and disgust you by our obdurate seeming singularity. We don't fit in properly. We don't keep a straight line on the social or public parade. We don't cheer in unison. We don't bow with the waving of the wand. We don't play the game. This is comprehensibly irritating in the highest degree, and in your irritation you have ascribed these infractions to our savagery. You have said we are not fit for civilization. You have not the ability to subordinate the individual to the community, or, if we have this ability, we have not the desire, not having the ethical impulse. With us, you have said, it is every man for himself. We are too impudent, individually. We cannot behave as gentlemen should, unobtrusively, submissive to the code, tacit, unassertive, regular. This is what you mean, saying we are undisciplined. But the fact is that we consciously despise the code itself. It is not that we recognize its validity and refuse to submit to it out of individual and selfish reasons. It is rather that the whole game disgusts us, and your seriousness in it most of all. It is to us a ludicrous and not impressive thing to see 10,000 grown-up men, a large proportion of them actually fathers, marching in step up and down a street or across a field. This blaring of the trumpets, this beating of the drums, this left, right, this rhythmic, snappy form force, this intoxication of the united mass movement, which sends you Gentiles frantic with excitement, is a laughable exhibition to us. Quote, "Foolish Gentiles," unquote, we say contemptuously. To us, 10,000 fools are not more impressive than a single fool. Where you see the flash of swinging ranks, a mighty lifting and falling, power, magnificence, we see only 10,000 serious-faced men engaged in astonishing antics, with astonishing skill. The drill of your regiments, the drill of your colleges, of your social usages, your clubs, all impress us alike with their triviality. We do not understand it. Perhaps you will reply that this contempt is merely a rationalization. We despise discipline because we lack it and secretly we aspire to acquire it. But in fact, it is the most severely disciplined Jew who most heartily despises your disciplines. It is the modernized Jew who has thrown off the discipline of Orthodox Judaism who comes nearest your spirit. It is the Orthodox Jew, the most Jewish Jew, who least understands you. And it is this Orthodox Jew, this ghetto Jew, whose apparent individualism deprives his mass life of all form and discipline. It is this Orthodox Jew who seems, of all Jews, to be the least accessible to your orderliness. It is this Orthodox Jew who, nevertheless, submits to an amazing discipline unknown to most of you. I have said that the obstinate maintenance of our identity and our religion through 80 generations of oppression bespeaks a rigorous and effective discipline. But what this discipline is in practice, you do not realize. The Orthodox Jew submits to an unrelaxing regime which you Gentiles would find intolerable. It governs him in all his actions, from birth to death. It controls and directs with an iron hand his daily occupations. It pervades with obsessive immanence every moment of his time, every movement, every function. The Orthodox Jew begins the day with long prayer, closes it with long prayer. He cannot take a glass of water without a prayer. He cannot satisfy his physical needs without a prayer. He stops for long intervals, afternoon and evening, to pray. The discipline extends to his relations with his wife. It imposes on him the obligation of study. It binds him to daily and hourly usage of a language, Hebrew, artificially maintained. It intersperses his years with numerous fasts and feasts, and with its enormous burden of ritual and tradition. All this over and above the fierce discipline of that world's enmity and contempt, the discipline of mere existence in an alien and unfriendly atmosphere. Much of this religious ritual covers eventualities which you would regard as secular: dietetic laws, sanitary laws, sex laws, social laws, for all life is religion to the Jew, and all life, proceeding from God, must be governed by Him. But when the ritual is reduced to what even you would call the religious, it still presents a bulk of tyranny to which you would never submit, a discipline which you are incapable of suffering, a discipline which demands incessant vigilance, lest a prayer be omitted, a discipline the details of which it takes years to acquire and into which one must be trained from childhood. And what is most relevant in this connection is that this discipline is a corporate discipline. It is directed to a common purpose outside of the individual, to the perpetration of a people through its religion. In our religious ideology, the selfish salvation of the individual soul is a very minor theme. It is, I believe, an acquired dogma, and its irrelevance is proved by its unimportance. Our prayers are largely common prayers. We pay little attention to the afterlife, and even our dreams of an afterlife are associated with the Jewish people as a whole. As individuals, we sometimes pray for personal benefits, but so infrequently that we could omit these prayers without changing the bulk of our ritual. Most of our prayers are prayers of glorification. They link the people as a whole to God. They redictate the people as a whole to God's service. They praise God for the burdens He has placed upon us, and, with passionate iteration, they thank Him for having made us different from you. It does not need a Jewish scholar, it needs only an intelligent Jew who has lived in an orthodox or semi-orthodox environment to appreciate that all this tyranny of discipline was bent to one end, to our preservation as a distinct and separate people. We feel that we are not merely different from you at points, it is a totality of difference and of separation. We have carried out with us into exile the complete atmosphere of our national life. Our holy festivals are largely national, and even in those which are predominantly religious, there is the continuous minor theme of our separate nationalism. One holiday celebrates liberation of the Jewish people from Egypt, another the deliverance of the people from the Asiatic Greek oppressor. Of a national enemy, still, others celebrate the time of the Palestinian harvest, with appropriate prayers and ceremonies. And even in our quote-unquote pure religious festivals, the memory of our national institutions, our temple, our hereditary priesthood, maintains an unbroken background of suggestion. And with these recurrent climaxes in our religious life dominated by the national consciousness, the general tenor of all our religion repeats this theme from day to day. The discipline of our religion, of our Jewishness, is a corporate discipline, the subjection of the individual to the mass. I repeat this to remind you that, contrary to your accusation, the intractability of the Jew to your forms of discipline does not spring from individualism or from lack of a social conscience. We are disciplined more bitterly than you, and we bear the discipline without the assistance of narcotic rhythms. We bear our burden like civilized adults. Nor do I see any contradiction between this fierce insistence on separate national existence and our dedication to a universal ideal. We believe and feel that for such an ideal, we alone, as a people, possess the especial aptitude. The Orthodox Jew bases it on divine will and choice. Others, like myself, know not what on to base it, but believe it nonetheless. We shall not further that ideal by losing our identity. To mingle with you and be lost in you would mean to destroy the aptitude forever. Thus, universal ideal and national identity are inextricably bound up. To the maintenance of this high union, we have given consciously, seriously, without kings and courts, without medals and reviews and orders, without cheering and without drills, a bitter and obstinate devotion, more exacting than anything you have known, and in its deliberate effects, more successful.